I never thought I'd come back to this house again. Not after everything that happened. Not after the night my mother-in-law looked at my child, my soft, gentle little boy, and whispered the word monster like it was some poison she needed to spit out. But life has a way of pulling you back to the places where your heart was broken the worst. It was late afternoon when I arrived at the house. The sun hung low, making the sky look warm and golden, but the air felt too heavy to enjoy. My hands trembled slightly as I held Noah's hand. He was small, but not fragile. He had a strength in him that most people didn't see, because they never bothered to look. He pressed close to my side, his curly hair falling over his forehead. Every few seconds, he glanced up at the windows, then back at me, as if checking for danger. "It's okay," I whispered, brushing my thumb gently over his knuckles. But the truth was, I didn't fully believe my own words. This house used to be full of noisy gatherings, home-cooked meals, and long afternoons where we talked about the future. Back then, I felt welcomed, wanted. I thought I belonged here. Now every step toward the porch felt like walking into a storm I already knew would hurt. I didn't come because I wanted to. I came because Daniel, my husband, asked me to talk. He said it softly, like a man trying to sound brave but not quite managing it. For Noah's sake, he had said. I didn't know what talk meant anymore. But I came. For closure or answers, or maybe because some part of me still hoped Daniel would finally choose his family over his mother's toxic grip. As we reached the door, I saw a pale face behind the curtain. Daniel's mother. Watching. Judging. The way she always did, but worse now, because she believed she had permission. Noah gripped my coat. Hard. I knelt down and kissed the top of his head. "You don't have to be scared. I'm right here." He nodded, but his lip trembled. The door opened before I could comfort him more. Daniel stood there. For a moment, everything inside me twisted, because even after the pain, even after his silence, he still looked like the man I once trusted. His hair was messy like he been pulling on it, and his eyes looked tired, almost guilty. "Hey," he said softly. "Hey?" My voice felt too light, too careful. His eyes moved to Noah. He hesitated, just a split second, but I saw it, that small moment where he did. "Do you know how to greet his own son?" "Hi, buddy," he said. But it came out awkward and strained. Noah did answer. He simply pressed closer to me. "Come in," Daniel said, stepping aside. But the moment I entered the hallway, I felt it. That cold, heavy atmosphere that had become normal in this house over the last 2 years. The faint smell of lavender candles mixed with a stronger perfume. The one his mother wore like armor. She was standing in the living room. Arms crossed so tightly it looked like she was trying to squeeze her anger into her bones. "I told you this was a mistake," she muttered loudly, not even pretending to be polite. "We don't need more problem, especially not with him here." Her eyes shot toward Noah like knives. I felt my body tense. "He has a name," I said quietly. "His name is Noah." She rolled her eyes dramatically. Of course she did. Daniel stood between us, rubbing his forehead as if we were burdening him. "Mom, please," he whispered. "Just, let's talk." Talk. Such a small word. Such a heavy weight. I looked around the familiar house, the soft beige walls, the framed family pictures I once smiled at, the rug Noah took his first steps on. Now the place felt smaller, tighter, almost suffocating, like the walls were watching, waiting for another crack to form. We sat in the living room. I took one side of the couch. Noah sat beside me, hugging his stuffed dinosaur. Daniel sat across from us. His mother chose to stand behind him, like a guard protecting her precious soldier. No one said anything for a long moment. Finally, Daniel cleared his throat. "I think we all need to try again," he said. "Start fresh." I raised my eyebrows slightly. "Start fresh. After what she said about our child?" His mother scoffed again. I said what everyone was thinking. "The boy doesn't act normal. It's not my fault if you're too blind to see it." Noah flinched. My heart broke and burned at the same time. "He's 6 years old," I said, my voice low but shaking with anger. 6, and he's sensitive, gentle, kind. But you look at him like he's broken. He is," she snapped. Daniel didn't correct her, didn't tell her to stop, didn't defend Noah, didn't defend me. He just stared at the floor like a guilty child. I felt something inside me shift. A kind of quiet anger mixed with clarity. This wasn't a husband defending his family. This was a boy trying not to upset his mother. And suddenly, the 7 years of marriage felt clearer than ever. "Daniel," I said softly, "you promised you'd protect him." "I'm trying," he whispered. "No," I said. "You're trying to make your mother happy. That's not the same thing." His mother stepped forward. "You don't get to talk to my son that way. Not in my house." I turned slowly toward her. "This isn't your house," I said. "It's ours. Mine and Daniel's. Or at least it was." Her lips tightened. "You're dramatic, and you're cruel." Daniel stood up suddenly, panic flashing across his face. "Stop, both of you, please." But nothing could stop how cold the room felt now. Noah shifted uncomfortably, then whispered, "Mommy, can we go home?" Home? He didn't mean this place. He meant our tiny apartment, the one-bedroom space that smelled of pancakes and crayons, not shame. I touched his cheek. "1 minute, baby." I looked back at Daniel. "You asked me to come," I said. "So talk, say what you needed to say." He swallowed hard. So did his mother. And suddenly I knew they were keeping something from me, something big. Something they were trying to cover with awkward smiles and forced apologies. Daniel opened his mouth, but before he could speak, his mother cut in. "We talked to a specialist," she said, lifting her chin proudly, "and he said your son might not be capable of living a normal life." My heart nearly stopped. "What specialist?" I asked. She smirked slightly. "One who actually looked at him properly. You wouldn't understand. Mothers like you always think their child is perfect." Daniel closed his eyes, like he knew this was the wrong moment to reveal something like that. And he did it anyway. "You took him to a doctor without telling me?" I whispered. "We had to," she said. "Someone had to face the truth." I felt Noah's fingers tighten around mine. The fear in him was visible, trembling through his small body, but I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I didn't break. I just stared at the two people who were supposed to care about my child. Realized something sharp. They had no idea who they were dealing with now. They had no idea about the truth I carried. They had no idea what I had discovered the night I left this house. And they had no idea that the quiet woman they once manipulated was gone. This time, I didn't come to beg, or explain, or fix things. I came to end something. And they had no idea that the truth waiting in my bag, the papers, the reports, the proof they never expected would change everything. The room felt smaller after their confession, heavier, like the walls were absorbing our pain and pushing it back toward us. Daniel's mother stood tall, her chin slightly lifted, proud of her action. She believed she had done something brave, something necessary. She had no idea she had just pulled the final thread that held this family together. I kept my voice calm. Too calm. "You took my son," I said quietly, "to a doctor behind my back." Daniel opened his mouth, but nothing came out. He looked like a man drowning just beneath the surface, reaching for air, but refusing to swim. His mother stepped in before he could answer. "It was for the best. The boy needs help. You're just refusing to see it." I looked down at Noah, his fingers wrapped around his stuffed dinosaur, his eyes wide and wet as he stared at the carpet. He didn't understand everything being said, but he felt it. The tension, the rejection, the judgment. He always felt everything. I brushed his cheek softly. "You're okay," I whispered. But inside, something sharp was growing, a kind of quiet fury mixed with heartbreak. I wasn't angry because of what they believed. I was angry because they never took the time to know him. They didn't see the little boy who memorized every star in the night sky, who loved building tiny cities with blocks, who felt sad if a flower was stepped on. They only saw what they wanted to see, something different, something wrong. And Daniel, the one person who should have stood beside me, stood behind his mother instead. "I didn't mean to hide it from you," he finally said, rubbing his forehead. "I just didn't know how you'd react." "You didn't know how I'd react to you accusing our son of being broken?" I asked softly. He winced. "You know he's different," he whispered. "Different isn't wrong," I said. "Different doesn't mean monster." His mother rolled her eyes so loudly it almost echoed. "He doesn't talk like a normal boy. He doesn't play like one. He doesn't even look people in the eye. It's not normal. Maybe you make him uncomfortable, I snapped before I could stop myself. She gasped dramatically, hand pressed to her chest. You see what she's like, Daniel? This is why nothing gets better. She always turns everything around and blames us. I laughed, a short, painful laugh that came from a place far deeper than anger. You really believe you're the victim here? I asked. Daniel stepped forward. Stop, please. This isn't helping. Then say something, I said, staring straight into his eyes. Say anything to defend your son. He swallowed, his lips parted, and then he said the words I knew would change everything. We're just worried. We want him to grow up normal. Normal. That word again, like it was the only thing that mattered. Sometimes the simplest words hurt the most. For a moment the room fell silent, not because everything was resolved, but because everything inside me broke at once. Noah tugged on my sleeve. Mommy, can we leave now? He whispered. I nodded slowly, blinking back the burn in my eyes. Soon, baby. I stood up, smoothing my dress. Daniel watched me like he wanted to stop me, but he didn't move. Not even an inch. His mother smirked. Of course she did. She believed she had won, but that smirk only made me stronger. You want to talk about normal? I said quietly. Fine, then let's talk. Daniel straightened a little nervous. There's something you don't know, I continued. About Noah. About everything you think is wrong with him. Daniel's mother raised an eyebrow. What? That he screams when he's touched. That he can't sit still. That he shuts down when someone looks at him. We've seen it. I shook my head. You've seen what you wanted to see, I said, but you never saw the truth. Daniel frowned. What truth? I reached into my bag and felt the envelope. The one I'd spent weeks gathering papers for. The one with answers they never bothered to seek. The one that held everything they judged without understanding. But I didn't pull it out yet. Not yet. Instead, I looked at Daniel. The man I once believed would be the best father in the world. Do you remember the night I left? I asked. His cheeks paled slightly. I remember, he whispered. Do you remember why? He hesitated. I thought, you were overwhelmed. You needed space. I closed my eyes for a moment. No, he didn't remember the truth. He chose not to. I left because Noah heard your mother call him a monster, I said. And when he cried, when he begged you to hold him, you froze. Daniel looked away. His mother scoffed like the story bored her. You wanted me to ignore it, I continued. Pretend it was just a misunderstanding. But it wasn't. It was the first time my son realized he wasn't accepted in his own home. Daniel rubbed his face, guilt creeping into his features. I didn't know what to do, he whispered. She was crying. You were angry. Noah was screaming. You chose silence, I said. He looked up then. Really looked at me, his eyes watery, his jaw clenched. Do you think it was easy for me? He whispered. I didn't want this. I didn't want any of this. But you allowed it, I said softly. His mother stepped forward. Enough. We didn't ask her to come here and accuse us. I turned toward her. I'm not accusing you, I said. I'm telling you what you created. She stiffened. And for the first time, she looked unsure. Daniel ran his fingers through his hair, pacing slowly. What are you saying? He asked. Just tell us what you want. I looked at him. Really looked. And for the first time in years, I saw the truth clearly. This wasn't miscommunication. This wasn't stress. This wasn't confusion. This was a man who wanted me, but feared losing his mother's approval. And a mother who wanted control, even if it meant destroying her own family. And neither of them understood Noah at all. I took Noah's hand and kissed it gently. You know, I said slowly, there's a reason he avoids eye contact, a reason he covers his ears, a reason he curls into me when people raise their voices. Daniel looked up sharply. What reason? I reached back into my bag, and this time, I pulled out the envelope. Thick, heavy, full of truths they never expected. His mother frowned as if the sight of it offended her. What is that? I held the papers in my hand, but didn't open them yet. Instead, I let my eyes meet Daniel's. You said you wanted to talk, I whispered. Fine, let's talk. And the room grew still. Everyone's breath held. Because they had no idea that everything they believed about my child, about me, was wrong. And the truth inside that envelope would not only destroy their ignorance, but expose a secret no one in that house was ready to face. The room felt colder than before. Maybe it was the air, maybe it was the truth finally rising between us like something alive. My mother-in-law stood in the corner, her arms crossed tightly against her chest. She looked tired, older than I remembered, or maybe she simply looked defeated. She had spent so many years acting like a queen, ruling over everyone in the family, but now, for the first time, she looked unsure. My husband Daniel stood beside her. His face was pale, almost gray, as if everything he believed in was suddenly shaking right under his feet. And our son, my sweet gentle boy, stayed behind me, one small hand clinging to the back of my dress. He didn't understand the argument, the tension, the painful words, but he understood fear. He could sense when people hated him, and he sensed it in her. "Tell them," I said quietly to Daniel. "Tell your family why you're wrong." He swallowed hard, his eyes darted toward his mother, seeking her approval the way he always did. Even now, even after everything, his mother snapped before he could speak. "I will not apologize to a child who throws tantrums like a wild animal. I raised 3 children, and none of them behaved like that. You can call me strict, but I know what I'm talking about." I laughed softly, not because it was funny, but because I was finally too tired to care about her opinion. "You don't know anything," I said. "About him. About me. About what we live with every single day." Daniel rubbed his forehead. "Please, can we all calm down?" "No," I said. My voice was steady. "Calm? Not anymore." I stepped forward, gently moving my son behind me. My voice didn't rise, I didn't scream, I didn't fight. I simply spoke the truth. "Do you want to know why he behaves the way he does sometimes? Why he covers his ears when it gets too loud or hides behind me when someone new walks into the room? Why he cries suddenly without explaining?" I looked directly at his mother. "He has autism." Silence. Real silence. The kind of silence that drops like a stone. Her whole body went stiff. Her face changed. Pride melted away, replaced first by confusion, and then by something sharper, something she tried to hide but couldn't. Guilt. You should have told us," she whispered. I nodded slowly. "We should have. But Daniel didn't want to. He didn't want your judgment. Your comments. Your opinions. He was afraid you'd see our son as broken." Daniel flinched. "I didn't." "No," I said softly. "You didn't say it. But you felt it." His mother opened her mouth, then closed it again. For the first time ever, she didn't have a cruel comment prepared. She didn't have a lecture. She had nothing. But Daniel, he had everything to answer for. I turned to him, my voice trembling now, not from fear, but from 7 years of hurt. "You knew what your mother was saying. You heard her call him a monster behind my back. And you agreed with her." "I never." He stopped. "Because we both knew he had. He had said it on nights, when stress was too heavy. He had cried into his hands, saying he wished our son was normal. He had accused me of coddling him too much. He had blamed me for the diagnosis, as if I created it with my hands. And every single time, I forgave him. But now, I was done. You chose her over him," I whispered. "And the worst part is, I expected it." His face crumbled. "I'm trying." "No." I stepped back. "You're only trying now that you're losing." The truth hit him harder than anything I had ever said. He reached out, but I moved away. For the first time in our marriage, I didn't want his touch. I didn't want his excuses. I didn't want the broken pieces he offered as apologies. My son tugged gently at my dress. His eyes were wide, worried. I crouched down and brushed his hair back. "It's okay," I whispered. "Mommy's right here." He nodded and leaned his forehead against mine. A warm, small comfort in a cold room full of adults who didn't deserve him. When I stood up again, Daniel's mother was watching us with a strange expression. Painful. Regretful. Something she'd never shown me before. "I didn't know," she said quietly. "You didn't want to know," I replied, and she had no answer for that. I picked up my bag from the couch. Daniel's voice cracked. "Where are you going?" "Home," I said. With him." I stared at him. "He's my son. Where else would he be?" He took a step forward, panic rising in his voice. "Please, you can't just walk out. We can fix this. We can talk. We can." "Daniel," I interrupted softly. "I begged you to stand with us. I begged you to defend him. I begged you to listen every time I cried alone at night. You never did. He froze. His mother tried to speak too. Please don't take him away. I looked at her not with anger, but with truth. You called him a monster. Her face broke. And the sad thing is, I still would have forgiven you, I added. If you had apologized. If you had tried to understand. If you had even looked at him properly today. But you didn't. Daniel's voice trembled. You're doing this to punish me. No, I said. I'm doing this to protect him. My hand found my son's. Warm. Small. Trusting. We walked toward the door, and that's when Daniel finally cracked, his voice desperate. Please, don't leave. I stopped with my hand on the doorknob. For a moment, I let myself feel it, the weight of 7 years of love, pain, disappointment, hope, and fear. The dreams we had, the promises we made, the life I thought we'd build together. But love doesn't survive without respect, and respect doesn't survive without truth. I turned my head slightly. I loved you, I said, but I won't raise my son in a home where he's seen as a mistake. His knees nearly buckled, his mother covered her mouth. My son squeezed my hand gently. I opened the door. The air outside felt warmer, like freedom. Just before I stepped out, I said the final words that had lived in my chest for years. He is not a monster. He's the strongest person in this family. And one day you'll realize the mistake you made. Then I walked out, leaving their silence behind me like a closing chapter. A chapter that would never reopen. Final line, my son wasn't the one they lost today. They lost me.